Hello everybody and welcome back to Amazing Animal Inc.'s YouTube channel. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the difference between wildlife and exotic pets and where we get a lot of our animals from. We get those questions all the time and I think people don't quite understand. We have a mix of answers for that question. A lot of our animals are ex-pets, meaning someone bought them, they had them for a little while, they couldn't take care of them, they got rid of them. Some of our animals are injured wildlife, deemed non-releasable. They cannot go back to the wild, they cannot survive, something happened to them. A rehabber said and a veterinarian said they cannot go back to the wild, and then we can get them for educational purposes. And that's where some of our animals come from, and that's what I think we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so we have a handful of non-releasable wildlife, like you said, and we'll get to meet some of them. Our Screech owls, we've got 2 Screech owls that were both deemed non-releasable, a barred owl, a red-shouldered hawk, Willow, our bobcat, and even our Gopher tortoise. So we have a handful of non-releasable wildlife that wouldn't survive in the wild, so we can give them a forever home here.
Yep, exactly. And we get phone calls all the time. Someone found an animal in their backyard. They found an animal in their backyard. Unfortunately, we are not rehabilitators. We cannot take them in. They have to go to a wildlife rehab. What we can take in is if someone found an animal that's not from Florida in their backyard, we can take that animal in. So let's check out some of our rescued wildlife.
Yeah. So this is Willow, and she was a rescued bobcat that we took in. She was deemed non-releasable by the government. Unfortunately, someone found her when she was a baby out in the wild and thought they were helping, and actually took her home and raised her. They thought she was all alone and abandoned. And really, Mom was probably out and about somewhere getting food or spooked off, and she would have come back later. So Willow's been a great ambassador to teach people to kind of leave our wildlife wild. If you're not sure about an animal, if it's hurt or injured or you might think it might need help, call a licensed facility to help them with that. Willow did end up going to a rehabber for about 6 months to see if she could be back in the wild, but clearly she's a little too used to people and unfortunately is what we consider imprinted. So she is too used to people, would not be able to hunt or fend for herself. She didn't have her mom to teach her those skills. And we love having her. We've had her for about 3 years now. So Willow's probably about 4 years old, we're guessing. And she's got her good days and bad days with us. I should say that. So we've had Willow for about 3 years. It took about a year to build the relationship we have with her. And she clearly enjoys affection now, but it's always on her terms. There are some days that she just wants to play, there are some days she wants to be left alone, and then there are some days that she wants a lot of attention. Oh, what are you doing? And you can see the spots on the back of her ears. Those are called false eyes. So it's to look like eyes. If someone sneaks up behind her, a predator, they think they're being watched. So you'll see that characteristic on a lot of wildcats. Good girl. You my good girl. She is a beautiful cat. Pure muscle. She's about 20 pounds.
Archie, and Archie is our barred owl. He's a Florida resident, native to us right here, and he was deemed non-releasable the moment he came into the wildlife rehab. Unfortunately, he has a dead eye, and that means that eye does not work. Either his mom, his dad, his siblings, another wild animal, did something to that eye. He fell out of the nest, someone found him, they got him right to the Audubon, which was the correct thing to do, and unfortunately right away they knew he's not going to be able to hunt on his own. He doesn't have any depth perception, he won't be able to see properly, so he won't be able to survive out in nature. So we were able to get him at a very young age and hand raise him. He kind of thinks I'm dad. We started working with him when he was really tiny, about less than a week old. and they're apex predators in the wild. They have these huge talons. and these great big beaks, and they rip apart lots of different prey items. In the wild, he would eat rats, moles, snakes, lizards, frogs, sometimes even fish, other birds. And scientists actually use them as what we call a barometer species. And what that means is if you have birds of prey in your community, in your neighborhood, around your houses, that's really good. That means you have a really healthy ecosystem because there's lots of abundant food sources for them to eat. If you don't have any birds of prey, if you live somewhere and you've never seen a bird of prey, something's wrong. That means that there's a lack of nature, there's a lack of animals, there's a lack of food sources, and that habitat, there could be something going on with it, whether it be overdevelopment or pollution. So having birds of prey is really cool in your backyard. It means you have a healthy habitat, but unfortunately human-wildlife conflict is really hurting these guys. They get hit by cars, they run into cars at night. So yeah, be careful if you ever find a wild bird of prey or any wild animal and it's native to where you're from, get it to a wildlife rehabber right away.
Alright, so this is Alberta. She is an eastern screech owl. We also have Crash, is another eastern screech owl. They live together, and they both came to us from a rehabber in South Florida with the same exact injury. And this is something you hear about a lot. Unfortunately, they were both hit by a car, and she has a dead left eye, just like Archie. Crash has the same exact thing. He was also hit by a car, and on that impact it affected that eye, and it just kind of shrivels up. They can't see or hear then on that left side and would not be very successful hunting. And that's when we got contacted to take them in and give them a forever home and use them for ambassador work. So we can take her out, go to a lot of programs teaching people about our native wildlife, and we do have permits with U.S. Fish and Wildlife to be able to do this. They are a federally protected species, which is great because they are so important for the ecosystem. So if you ever see a cute little baby owl, these are actually full grown and they are very protected. So you don't want to take them, you don't want to keep one as a pet. I know they look so tiny, but let me tell you, those talons and beak definitely can still do some damage even though she is so small. I'm still wearing a glove for that reason. So they're definitely not something you can have as a pet, and you want to make sure that they're doing well in our environments. So we're glad we have Alberta to teach people all about these awesome little screech owls.
So this is Beetle, and Beetle is our red-shouldered hawk. He came into the Central Florida Audubon, and they are licensed rehabilitators, and they have veterinarians that work with them, and the veterinarian and the rehabilitators all determined that he was non-releasable, so he could not survive in the wild. He did come into the Audubon with a broken leg. He was a baby. They think the people who brought him in potentially tried to help him a little bit, meaning they kept him for a couple of days. It can take a couple of hours that a wild bird could imprint on a human. And what that means is they think their mom and dad is that human, and food comes from people, and they don't know how to hunt, they don't know how to fend for themselves, they don't have that healthy fear of humans that all wild animals need. So he was deemed non-releasable, A, because he had a broken leg, that healed up, but mainly because he was imprinted by humans and he couldn't be released back to the wild. Now we have him, and he goes on lots of educational programs with us, and he teaches people all about hawks and birds of prey here in Florida.
Alright, so this is Righty, our little gopher tortoise. You guys met him in the last vlog that we did, but he is a native species of tortoise here in Florida that is missing his front right foot. He was actually attacked by a dog and taken to a rehabber and deemed non-releasable. He wouldn't be able to burrow without that, so he's been an awesome ambassador that we again have special permits to have him because they are protected here in Florida. So we love educating people all about our native wildlife again.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask us, where our animals come from, and a lot of people call us in the community when they find animals that they think need help. Unfortunately, we are not wildlife rehabbers. We are an exotic animal rescue, and we take in exotics, but we do save animals that were deemed non-releasable by the rehabbers and use them in our educational programs. So yeah, we have lots of animals here. We hope everyone is staying safe. You're staying active, you're still learning, you're having fun at home. Take this time, to enjoy your families and enjoy your friends, and social distancing, please, please, please. I think we are beating this thing. I'm hoping and praying that next month we will get back to normal. We sure need it, and everyone stay safe out there, have fun, do your thing for wildlife, and go out there and do something amazing.